Welcome to round 2 of the WA Sporting Car Club 2024 season. Day 2 features historic touring cars, Formula V, Time Challenge, Formula Ford, and Free Formula. First event out on the circuit was the Time Challenge. And a great start from the two DBR cars, and Gary Utterson in third place at the moment in car number 8 as they came up and over the top of the hill. Of course, these guys racing for consistency and regularity. This is not door handle to door handle racing by any means. So we pick up on Neville Zaccoli and Lindsay Hamilton having a great charge down into turn number 6. It's the XY GT heading the field. Lots of different cars out there again at this race meeting, including the Birkin, car number 27 of Sebastian Wingham. Nominated a lap time of 1:11.5. Joe Douglas out there having another run in Time Challenge. Very consistent start to his season at Carco Raceway in 2024. Leon Magistro in the Alfa Romeo. And David Appleby in car number 164, the Mark II GT Cortina. Big mixture of race cars, highly tuned road cars, and your stock standard road cars out there on the circuit as well. Roscoe lifts the driver's front wheel up and over the top of the ripple strip at the top of turn 5. Big mixture of older cars versus some of the more high-performance street cars, including the Mitsubishi Evo 7 of Brendan Chamberlain there in car number 25. Renan Sanchez coming past in the BMW, the 325. And Doug Jack with a car dating back to around about 1971. Of course, the Chrysler Charger. Iconic car back in the day. And great to see Doug Jack still using that car quite regularly at Carco Raceway. Leon Magistro with one of the Mustangs of Mendo Jonsevski out there. Car number 55. And the VW Golf of Toma Stanker. And I think this is the first time we've seen Toma at Carco Raceway. Doing quite well and came to the checkered flag with a good score in the end for Toma Stanker. One of the Mickelson Falcons there. Car number 150, the Ford GTP. And Tony Mena in the ex-Bill Lee Mobile Holden Commodore. But as they cross the line, everybody receiving the checkered flag, our scoreboard doing a quick final calculation to bring out the placings. And it goes to Ryan Appleby in the Toyota Celica, car number 231, from Tony Roskell in the XY GT, and Sebastian Wingham takes out third in the Birkin S3. Race number 2 on the card. This is our Formula Fords here at Carco Raceway with Thomas Chapman in car number 88 on pole position, and alongside him was Brock Brewer in car number 57. These guys have been battling for the last 2 seasons up here at Carco Raceway, and it looks like it's going to continue in season 2024 as the red light diminishes, and it's a great start from Brewer on the outside, but Thomas Chapman drives underneath him into turn number 1 for the first time, and they head up through the S's. A big field of Formula Fords. Great to see some new names out there as well, including Garrett Piper, Mark Cirillo, and of course the return of Andy Van Leeuwen into a gold category car. He's been running the silver category car for quite some time, and there he goes, just going past our screen now in the white and green car, coming under attack from Simon Matthews as we see our newcomer Garrett Piper getting it all wrong mid-corner through turn 4, and he was able to get the model refired and race continued. Up towards the front of the pack, it was still Thomas Chapman from Brock Brewer. We went back to Mark Redmond in car number 11. As Brewer goes up the inside and drives side by side with Thomas Chapman up through turn 2, but now Brewer with the preferred line through the bus stop effects a change into turn number 4 and gains 2 car lengths on the entry into turn number 4. Todd Vince, a newcomer to Formula Ford racing at carco.com.au Raceway this year, in the second of the white and black and gold cars. Brewer still leading a hard-charging Thomas Chapman in car number 88. These three now starting to drive away from Andy Van Leeuwen and Mark Redmond, and we see Mark Cirillo in car number 5 facing the opposite direction at carco.com.au Raceway, lights the rear end up and drives away. Continue to race up through the S's, get his concentration back. And Glenn Swarbrick, a long-time runner at carco.com.au Raceway out there in the 1982 model Macon. But up towards the front, Todd Vince now having a look at Chapman. Chapman goes defensive down into turn number 6. They were side by side down into turn number 6, but Chapman got the better run out of turn number 6. But still Brewer from Chapman. Todd Vince running wide and clipping the curb. Lucky not to let the other guys through down the inside as we see 2 wheels on the grass. But Chapman all over the gearbox of Brewer again, and Todd Vince looking for the run around the outside, hits the marbles and gets the model all loose. That's going to cost him 3 or 4 car lengths now. Brewer and Chapman starting to drive away with the yellow car, one of the Van Leeuwen cars, moving forward yet again. They started to negotiate the lap traffic. Great driving from the slower car to maintain his line, and the faster cars will find a way through. This is David Bowden just in front of Glenn Swarbrick. And Mark Cirillo trying to recover from that little incident earlier in the race. Drives around the 82 Macon and then moves over to the inside for the pass down into turn number 6. But up the front, this hot race was still continuing between Brewer and Chapman and Mark Redmond in car number 11. Andy Van Leeuwen not too far off these front runners. It's great to see Andy making the transition into Gold Star for 2024. Having a nice competitive run out there at the moment. So again, as they crossed over the top of the line of 5, it was still Brock Brewer from Thomas Chapman. Issues on board now for car number 57. Slowing quite substantially, lost all of the race pace, and that has now allowed Thomas Chapman to drive through in the RF01 Van Diemen. And Josh Matthews all over the back of him now in car number 65. As they came down to greet the checkered flag, Matthews looks for a run up the inside, and it was very, very close at the finish. but unable to get over the top of Thomas Chapman. Second was Josh Matthews, and taking out third, Mark Redman. After the race, Slim Jim caught up with Andy Van Leeuwen.
I'm joined by Andrew Van Leeuwen here, who's racing in the Formula 4 division. Andrew, you've had a strong family history with with this car. And would you like to tell me what the history is? And I think your father was involved initially, wasn't he?
Absolutely. So my dad started racing Formula Fords here at Wanneroo Raceway, carco.com.au Raceway. Back in 1983 was the first time he raced. So, and he's had pretty much a consistent involvement since that time. So driving himself, he still races himself. He'll race at some point this year in a car that he's been driving since about 1986 or 87 as well. The same car. It's probably a car that's done more laps around this track. There wouldn't be many cars that have done more laps around this track than his old Formula Ford. It's not here this weekend. It's not here today. But yeah, that's how long we've been involved in this sport. I first raced a Formula Ford here in 2001.
To see more of this interview, visit our YouTube page. Formula V for their first race of the morning here on your Super Sunday at carco.com.au Raceway, and it was Paul Moltoni on pole position, starting alongside Dave Casely. It was a very even start as they came down towards turn number 1 for the first time, and then Casely moves across in front of Moltoni, takes the lead, and drives out through turn number 1 for the first time. Moltoni not giving up. These guys had a really good break for the first 4 corners as they turned into turn number 4 for the first time. Moltoni all over the back. Jason Fowler running extremely wide there in turn number 4. And Mason Legg not too far behind in a 5th position at the moment. Rod Lisson now looking at the back of Jason Fowler and taking Mason Legg with him in car number 85. We head down into turn number 6. All line astern at the moment, but we know what happens with Formula V racing here at Carco Raceway. It's a very, very competitive form of motorsport. Some great battles happening throughout the field, as you would expect with our Formula V, including back there the father and son battle of the Lockett family. Now, unfortunately for Vinny Paduano in car number 69, early retirement out of race number 1. And it was all that man, Dave Casely, in car number 7. And as you can see, we've lost Paul Moltoni. Just looping the car around there in turn number 1, cracks second gear and drives away. A big recovery in order for Paul Moltoni in car number 6. One of our newer drivers. A few new drivers out there this year with Mackenzie Gow and Ben Wilkins in car number 8. But Dave Casely doing it really well out in front. No pressure at all from Jason Fowler and Rod Lisson in 3rd place. As they come out onto the main straight, that familiar puff of oil from these Volkswagen air-cooled engines. Starting to get a little bit stretched out towards the rear of the field. The BM Graphics car of Scary into turn number 4. Was running with his brother this year. There's Jonathan and now Isaac Scary as our leaders are over the top of the hill, and Rod Lisson has gained hand over fist on Jason Fowler. And unfortunately, down in turn number 1, it was car number 8 Our newcomer to racing, Ben Wilkins, unfortunately had to stop the car, and this brought out a safety car for a 2-lap duration. Some very good driving from all of our drivers to be able to get so bunched up ready for this restart. And a big shout out to all of our volunteer officials at Carco Raceway. Always do a great job. And as you can see, this lineup, cars right into the gearbox of the car in front awaiting the start. And of course it brings the 1200 models closer to the 1600cc category as well. So green flag and away we go. And as you can see, 4 wide as we go down into turn number 1 on this restart, with Dave Casely taking the wide line. Rod Lisson on driver's right, gets the better of the run up through the S's, but Dave Casely able to drive around him in turn number 4. Jason Fowler looking like he is ready to pounce onto the back of Rod Lisson as well. As they come down the hill side by side into turn number 7. Dave Casely holding off. Rod Lisson at the moment uncharacteristically runs it all sideways out of turn number 7. Didn't cost him though. There's a fair bit of horsepower in this little engine of Dave Casely's, but again, Rod Lisson tries exactly the same move, this time side by side through turn number 2 and 3, and unfortunately that would be Madeline Matthews. Gets it all wrong down there, locks it up and goes backwards into the sand trap. So unfortunately that brings this race to a close as our 1200cc category goes to Andrew Lockett over Callum Lamont and Miles Lockett for third. Up the front in our 1600cc category, the winner goes to Dave Casely from Rod Lisson and Jason Fowler. Free Formula, the Mobile Museum of Motorsport, make their way down towards the starters rostrum. Only a 6-car field on our Sunday morning here at carco.com.au Raceway, with Simon Alderson in the yellow and blue Formula Ford, the 2-litre version with wings and slicks. He takes the lead into turn number 1 for the first time from Marty Bullock in the Chevron B20. He also had David Watkins out there in the Royale, Glenn Schwarbrick driving that well-used Macon, David Dearden in a Vector, and Brian Searles in the Tiga sports car, and Lance Carwadine in his Jane Brabham, unfortunately not taking the start in this one. See David Dearden in the Formula Ford right behind Brian Searles in that 84 model Tiga, a very popular car back in the day at what used to be called Wanneroo Park Raceway. But Simon Alderson doing it well. Not uncommon to see this little Formula Ford with the 2-litre wings and slicks to be coming out of turn number 7 and number 2, 4 wide. A big 4-wheel drift. Very spectacular to watch. As we pick up on Brian Searles. A few issues on board early in this race in car number 45. And Marty Bullock, a well-travelled businessman, a very successful businessman. He's done world tours with Formula Junior and has a fleet of cars not only here in Perth but also housed over in Europe. But Simon Alderson just running away from this field in the RF88 model 2-litre Formula Ford, as you're already starting to pick off the back markers, and that was of course Brian Searles. Glenn Swarbrick is the next car for Simon Alderson to pass, already gone past David Dearden in car number 54. Very untroubled run in race number 1 for our leader, Simon Alderson. Originally from New Zealand, Has greased the checkered flag and takes out race number 1 for Free Formula. In second place in the Chevron B20 goes to Marty Bullock, and David Watkins makes the podium in third. Historic touring cars out on the circuit for their race. And it was Stuart Young on pole position alongside Don Behetz, then Conno Onofaro in that giant killing yellow Mini. He will start out of third position. Australian muscle car versus American muscle car, and it was a great start from Stuart Young and Behetz, but have a look at Conno Onofaro. Drives up the inside of the Galaxy, tags the bumper and took out his own headlight at the same time. Very unusual for our historic touring car drivers to have any contact at all. But as far as this one, it's touch ball play on with Don Behetz. Car number 222, the big 7-litre Ford Galaxy, leading the way from the little mini Morris Cooper S of Conno Onofaro, and now Stuart Young in the GTR XU1 Tirana in third place with Mike Rowe up there into fourth in the BMW 2002. Just behind him was Mitch Evans, being overtaken by Simon Northey in the left-hand drive Ford Mustang. A great battle for second and third between the XU1 Tirana and the Morris Cooper S of Conno Onofaro. Northey able to get past Mike Rowe, as we can see the debris off the back end of the Ford Galaxy. Big rear bumper bar down into turn number 1. It was all Don Behetz by a good 5 or 6 car lengths now over Conno Onofaro. Stuart Young not giving up in third position as he gets very close to the back of the Morris, up and over the top of 5. Stuart Young able to get a better run and a little bit extra horsepower compared to the Mini Cooper S. He takes over second position. Then we go back to third place was Conno Onofaro. In fourth was Simon Northey at the moment. And car number 2, Mike Rowe, the president of the WA Historic Touring Car Club, in fifth position at the moment. Mitch Evans coming through as well in his beautifully presented little red and white Mini. Then we have Trevor Fairs running in a new engine this weekend. And Kenny Waller getting the Volvo 142, the 4-cylinder Volvo, all sideways on the exit of turn 7. And back up towards the front, we pick up on Don Behetz. Still a healthy lead over Stuart Young, who goes all defensive on Conno Onofaro, filling his mirrors as they go up through the S's. Great line out of turn number 5 for Ken Waller there, showing young people exactly how it's done. But up and over the top of the hill again, it's still the big 7-litre Ford Galaxy of Don Behetz from Stuart Young and Conno Onofaro. These 4 cars able to move well away from Mike Rowe in the orange BMW. As we see the Galaxy starting to excite its tyres on the exit of turn number 1. We said Trevor Fairs running in a new engine this weekend, and unfortunately for Kenny Waller, having some overheating issues on board the 4-cylinder Volvo. Down the hill again for the last time, Behetz all sideways in the 7-litre Galaxy. He takes a great win over Stuart Young in second position, and Conno Onofaro takes our third in the giant killing car number 22. Event number 2 for Time Challenge. And again, it was the XY GT Falcon taking the lead into turn number 1 from the Tirana and Mustang. And although you can see a very sizable distance between first and second at the moment, that is not relevant when it comes to Time Challenge. This is all based on consistency of your driving rather than overall horsepower. Good to see the return of Tony Mickelson again in season 2024 in the Ford GTP. Of course, Ryan Appleby, our winner of race number 1 out there in the Toyota Celica. And Joe Douglas, of course, father of Harry Douglas, who was racing previously in XL Cup. And another name been around Carco Raceway for a long time. And that is the driver of the Alfa Romeo in Leon Magistro. Renan Sanchez coming across the line, a relative newcomer to Time Challenge in his beautifully prepared 325 Mazda. A wide variety of vehicles, as we said, the VW Golf that we date right back to the XY GT Falcon days of 1971. As Jamie Scott comes across in that beautiful Mark II Escort, and the Birkin as well. The Birkin of Sebastian Wingham, done very well in event number 1 earlier today. Leon Magistro in that beautifully prepared Alfa Romeo. Little Birkin, a very unusual car to see an open air cockpit style car racing in amongst Time Challenge. Mazda RX-8 and Appleby in 164, the Mark II model GT Cortina from 1971. These guys maintaining the distance between each other during this event, not hindering each other and slowing each other down. A great way to start your motorsport career at carco.com.au Raceway. You can get in touch with the West Australian Sporting Car Club and have a chat about entering into Time Challenge. So we see Doug Jack coming across in car number 35, all the way down from the Wheat Belt region. And car number 31 takes a bit of the inside curb and then also backs it up by taking a bit of the outside curb, because that's Ryan Appleby driving that Toyota Celica very, very hard. Gary Utterson and Mondeski out there as well. You see our Ford Falcon driver doing it quite well. Tony Roskill out there in car number 888, starting to go through some of the slower traffic now. Mickelson in the Ford GTP and Tony Menner in the Mobile Holden dealer team colours. But at the finish, it was a great win for the BMW 325 of Renan Sanchez over Peter Toey in the Golf R wagon, and Tony Mickelson, car number 150, takes out third. Race number 2 for Formula Ford here at carco.com.au Raceway. On pole position, it was Tom Chapman. Alongside him in the yellow car 65 of Josh Matthews. Great start by both of our front runners, but it was all Matthews in car number 65 down into turn number 1 for the first time. He takes the lead into the corner from Thomas Chapman and Mark Redman in the blue car. Brock Brewer not too far off the tail of these guys as safety car boards come out and causes a bit of a concertina effect. Andy Van Leeuwen runs wide. That's Mark Redman spun out with Mark Cirillo getting onto the brakes very, very quickly and avoiding a big major impact with Mark Redman. Very unfortunate there for Andy Van Leeuwen, having to run very wide. And this was a pickup back to our start. And unfortunately for Garrett Piper in car number 5, a debutant at Carco Raceway this weekend, he stalled on the line and had to be removed from the track. So at the start, it was Josh Matthews over Tom Chapman with Brock Brewer in third. Simon Matthews up into fourth now. And Todd Vince and Xavier Henderson side by side down into turn number 1. 3 wide on the entry into turn number 1. unfortunately for Todd Vince and Xavier Henderson, they're going to find themselves facing the wall, and that brought out another safety car. Both drivers A-OK and were able to extricate themselves from their Formula Fords. Kept our recovery team on tap this weekend at carco.com.au Raceway. If you'd like to help volunteer and be involved in the running of some of the best local motorsport you'll find anywhere in Australia, get in contact with the West Australian Sporting Car Club and ask about volunteering. Lots of people involved, and we thank you very much for your support and your volunteering of your time. Josh Matthews will take this one from Tom Chapman and Brock Brewer up into third. After the race, Slim Jim caught up with Taylor Grant, one of our volunteer officials at carco.com.au Raceway.
We're at carco.com.au Raceway on a magnificent Sunday afternoon, I should say. And I'm joined by one of the essential aspects of motorsport, which is the officials. And we're talking to Taylor Grant. Taylor, thanks very much for your time.
Nice.
Now, how did you get involved in officialdom?
Yeah, so I came up to Carco Raceway when it was originally Wanneroo Raceway about 7.5 years ago. And I was just here to spectate. And I was walking through the paddock, and the flag marshals had a shed up there. And I looked past and I went, that looks like a really good idea. Get closer to the action and get involved.
But as a spectator, did you have any aspirations to be a driver?
Oh, I've always wanted to be a driver. You always watch the guys on TV, and a lot of it comes down to budget. And
of course.
For someone that can't...
It's a hugely expensive sport.
Absolutely. And
as well as having to get a team around you at the same time that's going to be able to support you.
Exactly. And a lot of people come from the karts at quite a young age. Not many jump in the cars at a later stage, but... it comes down to budget a lot, and the officials was the next closest thing.
So you've actually fulfilled both your aspirations, which is the officialdom initially, but then into driving, which is great. Yep. Does it give you a newfound regard and respect for what the officials have to do?
Absolutely.
And the essentialness of them to the actual race day?
Absolutely. So I know that I can't go do what I enjoy in the car without people on the sidelines. So I'm more than happy to be here on a beautiful day like today, helping all these guys go racing.
So what year did you become an official?
2017. So,
so you're well experienced now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well experienced.
Absolutely. I've done a bit of everything.
So tell me, what roles have you performed as an official?
So I started off, there's actually not much I haven't done around this track.
Okay.
I started off as a flag marshal for about 2 years or so.
Yeah.
I've done the starters role as well, down in the starters box, waving the checkered flag and getting races underway. But I've also had the opportunity to get training up in race control, running events.
It's amazing when you sit up there, isn't it?
Oh, it's
the way the team galvanises to make sure each race is monitored correctly and so on. It's just incredible to watch.
To watch more of this interview, plus many more, jump on to the West Australian Sporting Car Club YouTube page. The exciting Formula Vs were next on the circuit here at carco.com.au Raceway with Dave Casely and Rod Lisson on the front row as per usual. And in a bit of desperation down here into turn number one, Casely takes Rod Lisson really wide on the entry into turn number one for the first time. Both cars running around the concrete apron on driver's left for the first time. Gave him a good run up through turn number 3 and into 4. But already 5 cars starting to break away from the rest of the field. It was Casely, Lisson, Fowler. Mason Legg just starting to drop away already from these top 3 as they disappeared up and over the top of the hill. There's Dave Casely doing it quite nicely out in front at the moment. There's Mason Legg now starting to be bothered by Paul Moltoni in car number 6. Moltoni has a look around the inside and was able to pull that move off. As we pick up with our leader, Dave Casely, still from Rod Lisson, and Jason Fowler in a brand new car for this weekend. Doing a great job on debut in this brand new car. Up in third place at the moment. Having a look down the inside of Rod Lisson's not going to work on this occasion, but this has allowed Dave Casely to extend his lead even further now as they head up through the S's for the second time. Back here in our 1200cc category, and the fight was on with Callum Lamont, both of the Lockets, and we could throw April Welsh and young Scary in there as well. They had a great battle. Multoney now up into second place, tries to swing across in front of Rod Lisson and does so. It's the 85 of Mason Legg, making his last appearance at carco.com.au Raceway for quite some time due to work commitments. Car number 44 of Isaac Scary. Kathy Lisson not having a good day that she would like to remember. And it's now Casely from Multoney, Lisson and Fowler. They're your top four as they go down into turn number 6. But this is our 1200cc category, and what a battle this was. Fowler having a look up the inside of Lisson and almost trying to do Paul Multoney in the same move. Moves himself up into third place now. Dave Casely well down the road in front of that pack. And Rod Lisson trying to do something about Jason Fowler in this brand new car. Multoney already 2 car lengths in front. Oh, Multoney takes a bit of the inside curb, and that ran him wide, and that would allow Jason Fowler to get up the inside. We go back to our 1200cc category. It was Miles Lockett under heaps of pressure from Callum Lamont and also young Jonathan Scary. Scary with the better run out of turn number 5. They go side by side, Jonathan Scary and Miles Lockett, but it was April Welsh doing a great job in front of Callum Lamont. Then we go back to Miles Lockett and Jonathan Scary. These guys were battling out for the entire duration of this race. What we don't see on camera at the moment is actual Andrew Lockett. He is miles up the road. These guys fought the whole duration of this race. So they come past car number 8, another newcomer in the Williams, the Ben Williams. Doing the right thing, staying right out of the way as Jason Fowler has now taken the lead, with Dave Casely unfortunately making a mistake over the back end of the field. So it's still Andrew Lockett from Callum Lamont, Miles Lockett, April Welsh and Jonathan Scary now on the attack, trying to get past car number 33 of April Welsh. Fowler holding off Multoney into turn number 4. It even closes up again. April Welsh went from 2nd to 6th during this little exchange. Fighting back hard. Callum Lamont in car number 91 doing the best he can to try and get around April. But Jason Fowler now also coming under attack from car number 6 of Paul Multoney. Laps running down here, and things are getting very, very close at the front of both categories. So Andrew Lockett already gone through. Miles Lockett now swings into 2nd. Jonathan Scary up into 3rd. And you can throw a blanket over Callum Lamont and April Welsh. Ben Williams, a great bit of observance and driving there to stay out of the way of the faster cars as Kathy Lisson in car number 11 blows past on the inside. But at the checkered flag, it was all Andrew Lockett. A good win by some 5 seconds over Callum Lamont in car number 91, and taking out 3rd was Miles Lockett. Very, very close finish as all 3 of those cars came across the line together. April Welsh just missing out. As far as our 1600s, it was a great win for Jason Fowler over a hard charging Paul Multoney and Rod Lisson for 3rd. Free formula for race number 2 here at carco.com.au Raceway, and it was a great getaway by the Chevron B20 of Marty Bullock. towing Simon Alderson in the 2-litre Formula Ford. Then we went back to Glenn Swarbrick and David Dearden. Unfortunately, a depleted field for the start of this race number 2. Unfortunately, we've lost Lance Carwadine in the Jane Brabham earlier, and also lost Brian Searles in the Tiga and David Watkins in the Royale. These guys having a great battle in race number 1 and now continuing in race number 2 in the Chevron B20. A well-travelled racer and businessman in Marty Bullock. Able to get away slightly from Simon Alderson. You can see the cars twitching under brakes. A couple of the Formula Fords from yesteryear having a great battle back in 3rd and 4th positions as well, with David Dearden in the outside, the yellow car, and Glenn Swarbrick on the inside. David Dearden driving the 1994 model Vector Formula Ford. And it looks like Glenn Swarbrick has got some issues on board the Macon. A very well-travelled car. This one does lots of laps around Carco and Collie and anywhere else that Glenn is able to race or drive this car. And now Alderson sweeps around the outside of Marty Bullock. A very credentialed race car driver, originally from New Zealand, now residing in Perth. And Simon Alderson starting to stretch the legs on the 2-litre Formula Ford as they head up through the S's over the bus stop and hard on the brakes, down a gear for turn number 4. Alderson really starting to step the pace up towards the end of this one. And unfortunately for Marty Bullock, bit of a brake lock up and sends it straight into the sand trap at turn number 1. This unfortunately brought out a safety car for 1 lap and a restart now with only 2 cars remaining, with Marty Bullock back in the paddock taking the sand out of the Chevron, and of course the retirement of Glenn Swarbrick. As you would expect, the 2-litre Formula Ford of Simon Alderson doing it well. Big 4-wheel drift out of turn number 7. He looks up, sees the checkered flag and takes a good win from David Dearden in the 94 model Vector. Historic touring cars accept the green flag from our hard-working volunteer officials here at carco.com.au Raceway. We are set for a start here, and away we go, and it's the big 7-litre Galaxy alongside Stuart Young and Conor Onofaro in that little yellow Mini. Right down on the inside of Stuart Young as they tilt into turn number 1 for the first time. The Mini gets the better of the run and slots himself nicely in between the Galaxy and the Tirana. Simon Northey in there for 4th place as they go into turn number 4 and 5 for the first time. It's all Don Behetz keeping that Galaxy as straight as he can so he doesn't excite those rear tyres. Trying to preserve what rubber he has underneath him for as long as he can. Conor Onofaro, and arguably Australia's fastest Mini, just loses out over the top of the hill here to the higher horsepower cars, the Tirana and the Mustang, as Don Behetz gets a big bite of the inside curb. A little bit of oversteer on the way out. Mike Rowe in 5th position at the moment, the BMW 2002. But Don Behetz doing an outstanding job in this big, huge American muscle car. 427 cubic inch of Ford motor on board. A great example of the strengths and weaknesses of race cars back in the day, as Conor Onofaro sends it from Adelaide all the way underneath Simon Northey. Now that's a great pass. Pick up with our battle back here towards the rear of the field with 3 4-cylinder cars, 2 minis and a 4-cylinder Volvo. And then we can also throw in Mitch Evans in another one of the minis as well, doing quite well in front of these guys. But it's Kenny Waller looking for a run down the inside of Trevor Fairs, who's running in a new motor this weekend. So the motor a little bit tight and obviously not wanting to lean on it too hard. And good to see Stephen Wilkes back out there in race number 2. He unfortunately missed race number 1 earlier this morning. And a good battle with Kenny Waller going all defensive down into turn number 7, trying to block any potential run from Trevor Fairs in car number 95. Stephen Wilkes doing a great job sitting right behind Trevor Fairs in car number 95 as they form a line down the carco.com.au main straight. Again, Trevor Fairs looking for a run around the outside. A very ambitious move to attempt that here with a front-wheel drive Mini. Kenny Waller in the second of his Volvo fleet. As we pick up back on our leaders again, and Onofaro from 4th back up into 2nd now. He's driven past the XU1 and the Mustang. Really has a bit of an advantage up through the S's here, but as we can see here, you can't replace horsepower. Mustang and the Tirana, obviously a lot more power than the Mini, but the Mini, as we said, Australia's fastest Mini, as Don Behet's trying to keep this car as straight as possible. Conor Onofaro has already been in contact with each other earlier in the day, and again, very, very close on the exit of turn number 1. Kenny Waller now 100 metres in front of Trevor Fairs, and Stephen Wilkes rounds out the field. And again, Onofaro has missed out. Lost another 2 positions on that previous lap. So they have to try and fight back as they head up through the S's. It was Don Behet. You can now see the Galaxy starting to lose its rear end, getting bit sideways on the exit of turn number 5. And in the mirror is Simon Northey as Ken Waller runs it very, very wide, just about puts it into the sand trap outside McCracken House. He recovers as our leaders all blast past Kenny Waller in car number 142. Simon Northey in the Mustang, the left-hand drive Mustang, doing a great job in 2nd place here. Almost attempting an outside pass on the Bel Air. Simon Northey round the outside, nearly attempting a pass on the big Ford Galaxy as Stephen Wilkes moves over to driver's left and allows the faster guys through. It's Behet's from Northey and Young in 3rd as Don Behet lights it up, comes out of turn number 7 and takes a great win in race number 2 for historic touring cars. He takes the win from the Mustang of Simon Northey in 2nd, and rounding out our 3, the purple GTR XU1 Tirana of Stuart Young. Final race for Time Challenge here at carco.com.au Raceway. It's a big bunch of field and a very, very close racing here on the day, with some newcomers out there testing the waters for their motorsport career. Don't forget, if you'd like to get involved with Time Challenge, contact the West Australian Sporting Car Club office and have a chat about getting involved in what is a fantastic way to start your motorsport career. Possibly an issue there for Tony Roskell in the XY GT Ford Falcon. Appleby in the Mark II Cortina. And John Sefsky in the Ford Mustang now goes to the front in car number 55. As we said, that is only on the road. This is all about being consistent in your 5-minute practice in the morning. You run the car around as many laps as possible and try and see how consistent your driving is. and then you have to allocate a time to race control, and then for the 3 events through the day, you have to drive to that time that you have submitted earlier in the day. It's a very, very hard discipline. So pick up on Doug Jack, the guy that's done lots of racing, not only at carco.com.au Raceway, but also at Northam and Albany Around the Houses events. We pick up on Stanker having his first drive of carco.com.au Raceway in competition, and the Subaru BRZ of Joe Douglas. One of the Mickelson family in car number 170, that is Ivan, going past in the Mazda RX-8 GT. And Renan Sanchez, this guy, a really newcomer to Time Challenge, already won our second event held earlier in the day in that beautifully presented BMW 325. The second of the Mickelson cars, car number 150 of Tony Mickelson in the Ford GTP. Everybody giving each other a wide berth and keeping a distance between the car in front. And that definitely helps with your consistency around this 2.41 kilometre Carco Raceway. Some different lines being used by all of our competitors. Pick up on Stanker again in the Volkswagen, up and over the top of the hill, doing quite well early in this event. And now the Birkin S3, driven by Sebastian Wingham, another newcomer to racing at carco.com.au Raceway. But at the end, it did go to Regan Sanchez in BMW 325, from Ivan Mickelson in the Mazda RX-8, and Leon Magistro in the Alfa Giulia Sprint. Car number 33 takes out third position. Formula Fords for race 3 on day 2 of round 2, the 2024 West Australian Sporting Car Club Championships here at carco.com.au Raceway. And it was a great getaway from car number 65 of Josh Matthews. Tom Chapman coming across and taking second place away from Brock Brewer in car number 57. And then Andy Van Leeuwen in the Van Leeuwen stable race car in fourth position now as they head up through the S's for the first time. It's Josh Matthews with a good 2 car lengths over Tom Chapman. Then we go back to Brewer and Van Leeuwen. Good run off turn number 5. Saw Brewer in a position to pass, goes down the inside, hangs it nice and tight in the entry into turn number 6, and able to take that position away from Tom Chapman. Now having a look at our race leader, Josh Matthews, decides not to do it there, would just tuck in, get a bit more of a draft around this corner and maybe put a pass on down into turn number 1 on lap number 2. Great wheel-to-wheel action with our Formula Fords. Been one of the standout categories at carco.com.au Raceway. And as we predicted, Brewer up the inside into turn number 1 on lap number 2. He takes that position away from Josh Matthews and Tom Chapman. They've been able to drive away from Andy Van Leeuwen, who's coming under attack now from Mark Redman and the black and orange car of Todd Vince. This was a great dice between all of these 3 cars for the entire length of this race. Brewer going defensive, driving right down the middle of the racetrack. That's going to stop Josh Matthews from going up the inside on the exit of turn number 7. So Matthews tries for a run around the outside now, wheel to wheel into turn number 1. It's still Brewer from Matthews, 2 car lengths now back in third place to Tom Chapman. And Mark Cirillo having a return run at Carco Raceway this weekend in his beautifully presented car number 5. Todd Vince all over the back of him, as this time the better run out of turn number 6 went to Josh Matthews, able to slide up the inside of car number 57 of Brewer. He's in second place now from Tom Chapman. Andy Van Leeuwen getting a bump in the rear from Todd Vince, and that's allowed Mark Redmond to go side by side with Andy Van Leeuwen. So they go down into turn number 1. Brewer able to take the lead again from Josh Matthews and Tom Chapman. Great battle, position changing for first, second and third nearly every lap. Pick up on one of the older cars, and that's Dave Bowden having a run in his Van Diemen. And Garrett Piper on debut. Not a good day for young Garrett. As our leaders coming down into turn number 7 again. As Brewer defensive again, trying to stop all attacks from Josh Matthews. Gets a good exit out of turn number 7, but unfortunately we have gone safety car and we have lost our 2 front runners in Brewer and Matthews. Last time through into turn number 6, unfortunately both having a coming together. We'll pick up our vision. So this is as they came over turn number 5. Brewer with 1 car length over Josh Matthews, drops it down a gear and hits the brakes and actually locks the rear of that car and sent it around into a 360. And unfortunately for Josh Matthews, nowhere to go. And the 2 guys made contact down there and put them both out of the race. Not too much damage on board both of the vehicles. As our recovery, our hard-working recovery teams brought both the cars back into the paddock area. And unfortunately, we did go safety car. And that was the way that this one will finish under safety car conditions. And your winner is Thomas Chapman over Mark Redmond, and Todd Vince takes out 3rd position. Final race of the day for Formula V, our 1600cc and 1200 categories combined. And on pole position was Jason Fowler, and alongside him, Paul Moltoni. Good start by the whole field. Everybody getting away well, and down into turn number 1 with Moltoni sweeping around the outside of Jason Fowler, Rod Lisson and Mason Legg. They're our 4 as they head up through the S's for the first time. Big sweeping left-hander here at Carco Raceway. Of course, the only left-hander on the circuit, as Moltoni able to break away by 3 car lengths up and over the top of the hill for the first time from Jason Fowler, Rod Lisson, Mason Legg and Dave Casely. Looking like there's some sort of issue there, or trying to get some heat into those tyres. Now late in the day and no direct sunlight on the circuit. So Dave Casely, an extremely talented and a veteran when it comes to Formula V racing here in Western Australia. Down into turn number 1, Rod Lisson looking for a run up the inside of Jason Fowler. Moltoni hanging tough around the outside. He's going to get the better drive off turn number 1. And those guys side by side up through the S's. We pick up on Ben Williams, a debutant this weekend, having his first drive competitive Formula V racing, and unfortunately again for Vinny Panuadu in car number 69, a retirement early in the event. So Fowler to the inside, Moltoni to the outside. And we go back to Casely, now moved himself up into 3rd and actually goes up into the lead in car number 7. A great exit off turn number 7. And kept that momentum building down the main straight and able to get into turn number 1 in front. Now he leads a 5-car charge of our 1600s up and over the top of the hill. Carco.com.au Raceway lends itself to some great open wheel action. 5 cars battling it out for the lead here at Carco Raceway. It's still Dave Casely from Paul Moltoni, Jason Fowler and Rod Lisson as they come up on slower traffic now. Casely's hit the inside of the bus stop curb and grabbed too much of the curb and finds himself in the grass on the entry into turn number 4. An uncharacteristical mistake by Dave Casely as we see a replay of the event. Losing a lot of positions but able to keep the car going and rejoining the circuit. And that's allowed Moltoni and Jason Fowler and Rod Lisson to move away from Mason Legg in car number 85. Now battle towards the rear of the field for our 1200s. It's Callum Lamont, Jonathan Scarey and April Welsh. But Moltoni doing it really well out in front now, starting to build up that momentum towards turn number 1. Uses the old traditional entry into turn number 1. Really wide on driver's left until you can just about run out of road and then throw the car to the right-hand side. Jonathan Scarey making a big outside pass on Callum Lamont, and April Welsh is also, she's figuring in this one as well, as those guys and girls go up through the S's. There was this father and son battle that was happening out the front. Young Andrew Lockett holding off his father in Miles Lockett. But Moltoni now with Jason Fowler right in the gearbox. Fowler able to find a little bit more horsepower on the previous lap. And they're starting to get away now from Rod Lisson and also Mason Legg. But still, it was still side by side. Down into turn number 7 on the next lap with Moltoni just hanging on. Rod Lisson looking very menacing as they cross the line of father and son. Andrew having a good look at dad as he blows past the inside. You can see the helmet move to the right-hand side and have a good look at dad, who overtakes him very safely and cleanly down there into turn number 7. But now it's Jason Fowler in the lead and gets it all wrong. Way too wide on the exit of turn number 7. As they dash towards the line, it's going to be Moltoni only just from a hard finishing Jason Fowler, and Rod Lisson will take out 3rd position in our 1600cc category. Andrew Lockett able to hang on over his father, Miles Lockett, and young Jonathan Scarey. A fantastic day for Jonathan in 3rd position. The father and son, they cross the line, arms above the cockpit, clapping each other. That was a fantastic race. Free formula for their last event for the day here on your Super Sunday at carco.com.au Raceway. And a very depleted field, unfortunately, for our magnificent museum on wheels. It's David Dearden that takes the lead in the Vector at the moment from Simon Alderson in the 2-litre Formula Ford, and putting on a bit of a display of close racing here at carco.com.au Raceway, with Simon Alderson purposely hanging back and just filling the mirrors of the Vector in front. In a race practice. But David Dearden doing a great job in this Vector from 1994. And of course the 2-litre Formula Ford with the wings and the slicks of Simon Alderson. These guys just having a nice casually Sunday drive around carco.com.au Raceway until Simon Alderson decided it was about to get serious and remembered his point scores, and he put the foot down and was able to drive away quite comfortably from David Dearden. big four-wheel slide out onto the main straight to finish his day here at carco.com.au Raceway. Simon Alderson takes the win from David Dearden. Last race of the day for round number 2, day number 2 here at carco.com.au Raceway. These are the historic touring cars with that big 427 Galaxy on pole position from Simon Northey. As Simon Northey lights the rear end up on the start. It gets down into turn number 1, but that little pesky mini of Conor Onofaro straight up the inside of the Mustang and Galaxy. Through the S's for the first time, you can see Conor Onofaro really getting a fantastic drive up through the S's, able to get away and apply its advancements over the top of the hill for the first time. But now we're starting to get into V8 country. And of course, that's the run down into turn number 6 and then up and over the top of the hill. Let's see how long the little Mini can hang on for, with the Mustang bearing down on the back of it, but under brakes, it's still Conor Onofaro. Gets it up on 2 wheels. Oh, how's the car control? Let's have a look at that in slow-mo. Watch Cono's head. He really hits the inside of that curb, but fantastic car control to keep that car moving down the main straight here at carco.com.au Raceway. Simon Northey having a fantastic run this weekend in the left-hand drive Mustang. Up into second place now, trying to do something about this little yellow Mini out in front. And unfortunately for Kenny Waller in the 4-cylinder Volvo, battling some overheating issues all day, but still able to run and complete all 3 races. So a handy handful of points coming Kenny Waller's way, as we see Don Behetz move very, very close to the back end of Simon Northey as they exit turn number 7. Conor locking the fronts up on the entry into turn number 1. A little bit of understeer through the exit of turn 1 and then up through the S's where the Mini really excels. Ken Waller battling a little bit of understeer into turn number 1. Eventually gets the car around safely and continues on up through the S's. Simon Northey driving away from Don Behetz, but as we say that, Behetz has had a great run out of turn number 6, draws up alongside the Mustang and drives straight underneath Simon Northey and regains second position. And Mitch Evans had a little bit of smoke coming out of the back of that Mini early, but it seems to have dissipated now, and he would go on to finish this race and score some points for the West Australian Sporting Car Club Championship for 2024. But it was all the little Mini of Conor Onofaro, and as you can see graphically, he's driven away big time from Don Behetz and Simon Northey. Now this gap just started to increase, hand over fist with 3 laps to go. Kenny Waller, centimetre perfect over the top of turn 5. But it was all this man. Nobody was going to catch him. Arguably Australia's fastest Mini in car number 22. Conor Onofaro takes a great win to round off a great day for car number 22. In second place, the left-hand drive Mustang of Simon Northey, and rounding it home, the big American muscle car 222 of Don Behetz. Thanks for watching. To find out more, get on to the West Australian Sporting Car Club YouTube channel, and we'll see you at the racetrack really soon.